This quickie might be a bit special, because we have 2 games, and they're both all about forming a band. It's quite an odd thing, because there simply aren't that many games like these 2 out there. You have simulators for frickin' everything these days, from driving trucks to cleaning up dog shit, but none for managing a band? I mean, of course there's your rock bands and whatnot, but that's a different sort of thing, and even that's kind of fallen by the wayside lately. But here are 2 of the very few band managing sims that I know of, both for the Spectrum and both cut from a very different cloth. There's The Biz from 1984, and all the way from 1989 there's Codemasters' Rockstar Ate My Hamster. We'll start with this one first because it's a bit bigger. It came out on other formats, but this is the version I know for the Spectrum. Rockstar Ate My Hamster isn't exactly serious, but then neither of these games are. It's a total send-up of both the music business and the tabloid world, what with the game's title taken from perhaps the Sun's most famous headline. You know, outside of The Truth and Gotcha. Anyway, you play as circus impresarios turned budding music moguls Cecil Pitt and Clive, basically Del Boy and Wadley Trotter, and your mission is to take your own particular bunch of wallies to the top of the pop charts. You pick said wallies from a whole list of caricatures of the stars, from the immediately recognisable, to the ones where you think, oh, it's them after a minute, to the ones you'd just rather forget about totally. From there you record an album and shit out songs from it endlessly, going out on the road, dealing with charity gigs and all that, you know, all the usual stuff. Still, the best way to drum up support for the band is with a publicity stunt. However, this can kind of backfire when the leader of your band just happens to, you know, die in an orgy. As you do. On the whole, the game is, well, rather silly. It's pretty much a comedy game first and foremost, and one that uses pretty broad strokes, and it was kinda controversial back in the day to boot. Some of the main stores out there refused to stock it, I believe. Is it funny at the end of the day? Well, I laughed then, but then I was like 7 years old. The portraits are all quite funny though. In the end, this is more smut magazine than Viz magazine, but I kinda get a nostalgic kick out of it. The Biz is a slightly different story, not to mention a plainer one. Now, I've fucked this up several times before, but this game I can clearly say is written entirely in BASIC. There's things like statistics showing how much support you've got and how tight you are as a band. That lets you know that you're in for some serious stuff. Unlike Rockstar, The Biz has you start from the bottom, playing crap gigs for no money, hoping to get noticed every bloody week. Random events happen that can either help or hinder. You get a dry ice machine that magically improves the atmosphere. Or the bloody van breaks down, you know, for the 10th time. Oh, and there's drugs too. Lots and lots of drugs. But so long as you just keep plugging away, you can get noticed, find yourself with a record deal, maybe even make some TV appearances. Appearing on top of the pops is pretty much the most awesome thing there is, it has to be said. But then you're faced with hitting number 2 while the bastard rival band from your area that's always hated you gets to the top in the same week. And there's the small matter of the heroin addiction that's kinda fucking up your mind, your body, and worst of all, your sons. And the record deals never last all that long. One duff single and they'll throw you out on your arse. You only get one shot, shoeshine. Talking of which, at this point the game does give you the option to commit suicide. Kinda bleak, isn't it? The humour's a bit more subtle than Rockstar Ate My Hamster, but most certainly there and certainly darker. Having to change your image constantly, the horrifying cost of phoning up your solicitor, the constant toil of being on the road. It's another satire, but quite a pointed one. And also, it's a bloody addictive game. Kinda like Football Manager, I guess, only with guitars. It's one of the best basic games ever, in fact. For me, this is definitely the better of the 2 titles. It's bloody brilliant. Now, what with all the detail that went into The Biz, you can't help but feel that it does come from personal experience. And indeed, it did. The Biz was written by one Chris Sievey, formerly of a Manchester-based punk band called The Freshies. They were around for a few years in the late 70s, early 80s, getting a record deal and even having a minor hit in 1980. They never quite made it though, and broke up in 1982. Funnily enough, Sievey once wrote a game called The Flying Train and included it on the B-side of his solo cassette single Camouflage, and the original cassette of The Biz also contained new singles and remixes on the B-side. How cool is that? Sievey would eventually find some recognition as no less a figure than the king of proper telly himself, Frank Sidebottom. Yes, he of the big spherical head. He did stand up and appeared on telly for years, not super famous or anything, but always very much loved and hilarious. To tie games back in, he even appeared on Video Guidance in his legendary Christmas is Really Fantastic number. Sadly though, Chris Sievey died way too young, of cancer in 2010, aged 54. Frank, a film inspired by the character and the man, just premiered at Sundance Film Festival a couple of weeks ago, with Michael Fassbender in the lead role. So yeah, that's one hell of a story, and it can't not be mentioned. Not to knock the guy behind Rockstar Ate My Hamster or anything, Colin Jones, who made various other interesting games including Grange Hill and Slightly Magic, but yeah, the story behind the man behind The Biz is a great one, and it's one of the many reasons why The Biz is such a brilliant game. Perhaps it's also why we don't see many games like it, because you know, how can you top a game made by Frank bloody Sidebottom? The short answer is, you can't. And with that said, it's time to end this quickie vid. Thanks for watching, and wherever you are, whoever you be, have a good one, take care, and I'll see you next time.